Welcome to some breaking news. The BBC stands accused tonight of holding the country to ransom. This is after demanding hundreds of thousands of pounds for TV and streaming rights to the Coronation. Millions of people could therefore miss out on the historic occasion. I've got the actual piece of paper here. I'll just quickly read it. UK publishers and broadcasters unite in opposition to a BBC blackout of King Charles III's coronation footage. We are deeply concerned by the BBC's behaviour in restricting UK media companies' access to pool footage of the coronation of the King and therefore denying UK citizens the opportunity to enjoy this event of major public interest and national importance on the platform of their choice. This is the crucial thing. The BBC has repeatedly delayed and prevaricated on this issue since the death of Queen Elizabeth in September last year in an anti-competitive manner, and it concludes the BBC must urgently reconsider its position and allow all members of the British public who want to watch the coronation the choice to access the event wheresoever they should wish to do so. And I'm joined by TalkTV presenter and journalist Kevin O'Sullivan. So can you explain how we've got so late in the day and we're finally finding this out?
It's outrageous. I mean, we've been hearing for a week or so that the BBC, if they were going to offer up this pool footage, which will be crucial, were charging or seeking to charge an exorbitant amount. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of pounds. Yeah. Prohibitive, to be honest with you.
And just checking, the BBC is a non-profit-making organisation, so why does the BBC need to charge anything at all?
Well, exactly, and you can only conclude that what they're trying to do is to price other markets out of the business so that they exclusively cover this event.
And just to say, this is obviously deeply unfair, because in any financial bidding war, the BBC has licence fee payers' money to use. Other companies have to operate at a profit and don't get to dip into the nation's purses to fund whatever they want to fund.
Yeah,
so they're massively ahead of the game when it comes to things like that.
It's a disgrace. It isn't their event, and they're acting like it is their event. They're always like this with royalty. They think that the BBC and royalty are joined at the hip, and the royalty would only want the BBC to cover it. In fact, our royal family does not like the BBC at all. They have a long record of going to ITV first, and you know why. The royal family doesn't like the BBC. It's because of the Martin Bashir interview and various other crimes against regality over the years. So the BBC is pricing other people out of the market, and now we're hearing they're just completely saying you can't have it, which is outrageous.
At any price.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. It's outrageous.
This is a matter of hours before it happens.
Yeah.
And so effectively this means that other media outlets, for example, TalkTV, there are many others as well, are in a real dilemma at this point, in a dire dilemma, because if you're trying to plan your output for tomorrow's coronation and you're not sure if you've got the footage or not, and you're told you might have it, you're not going to have it, you've got to pay the most exorbitant amount for it, actually you're not going to have it however much you pay or don't pay, then how are companies supposed to put their programmes together? Yeah,
I mean, they're trying to monopolise this event, and the people of Britain, you know what happens with these events. I mean, the truth of the matter is that people do gravitate towards the BBC on big state occasions like this. However, the people of this country should be able to make the choice of where they want to watch this great event, the coronation of the King, and the BBC is preventing them doing that, which is an absolute disgrace.
How come the BBC effectively owns the footage rather than the royal family owning the footage?
I don't know the details of that, but usually the system is, I mean, this happens with press photographers as well. You have a pool, and usually one outlet is nominated to cover the event, and then they share the footage or the pictures or the copy with their rivals. You know, they lay down their rivalry for one day to share in this special occasion. The BBC is disgracefully flying in the face of that honourable system. I mean, they're behaving very, very dishonourably, and shame on them.
I mean, the chair of the BBC, as we know, has just fallen on his sword, most reluctantly, but the chairman has resigned. Is this the kind of thing, is this the sort of insurrection or, I don't know, autocratic behaviour that occurs when there is no chairman?
I don't think it's that. I think it's in their DNA. The BBC... well, you know, I was going to say, you know the BBC,
well, I was there for 30,
you're not like this.
30 years. I should have some idea of what goes on.
You're not like this, Vanessa, but you know there is a certain class of person at the BBC, the executives, they think they're better than everyone else, and they think that the rest of us who toil in the commercial sector are rather sort of dirty and grubby, and we're interested in profits, and they don't have to worry about that. That's what this is all about. It is once again this publicly funded broadcaster looking down on commercial broadcasters and also trying to screw them up, to be honest
to
with
me,
you.
this would seem to me to be utterly counter to the spirit of the coronation as evinced by the King's behaviour in inviting all manner of folk who might not have expected to be invited, who might not have considered themselves the great or the good, but he has kind of opened his arms and the arms of this coronation to enfold all sorts of different people, many of whom might like to receive this footage on the media outlet of their choice, whether it be YouTube, whether it be TalkTV, whether it might be a satellite channel. They might want to do it, and I can't imagine the King not wanting them to be able to access it. He's not trying to make it exclusive, he's trying to make it inclusive.
I think I can guarantee you that the King and indeed the Queen and all of the royal family, William especially, will be furious about this. Absolutely furious. This is the BBC behaving in a very regal manner. We're in charge, we're the national state broadcaster, and all the rest of you don't matter. They're going to rue the day they did this.
Yes, I find this extraordinary because if you sort of break it down, it's a little like the wedding photographer charging people for access to your pictures when you're the bride and groom. And the wedding photographer saying, actually, pay me, £1 billion. Actually, don't pay me anything. I'm not giving you the photographs. Anyway, when you're the bride and groom, you would think there are pictures of me, and it's up to me to dictate terms, not the photographer. The BBC is effectively the filmmaker in this, not the owner or indeed the arbiter.
Yeah, and they want, as I say, they want to monopolise this event. They're acting like a commercial outfit who are trying to profiteer from this occasion. And in fact, at the outset, I don't know what the financial situation now is. I don't know if you hand the BBC £400,000, which was the kind of figure being bandied around, which is if you handed them that money now, whether they'd give you the footage. But that is an outrageous price to be charging in the first place, and no one will pay that.
And just to check, the BBC doesn't pay the King and Queen for the right to film the coronation.
No.
Does it?
No.
So the BBC isn't having to cough up a price or a figure or a fee for the privilege of being the broadcaster of the coronation, is it?
I think there may be some copyright involved, and I'm sure that the palace coffers won't be filled to the tune of millions for this, but it will be some sort of nominal amount, I would imagine. But it isn't the BBC's. What the King would have wanted, what the King wants right now, I'll guarantee you, is for the BBC to change its situation, to change this awful predicament we're all in now, and hand us, the rest of us, the footage that we deserve.
Okay, here's the question. Is it too late? Is it too? I'm looking at the time. It's 5:23 p.m. This all kicks off tomorrow morning around about 9 o'clock-ish. We know the ceremony is at 11. There are, my goodness, what only goes into making hours of live television. It's a big deal. There are enormous teams involved. There's technology involved and cameras, and there are captions, and there are presenters, and there are scripts and auto cue. You can't just, cobble it together in the last 5 minutes, can you?
Well, I would say it's not too late now if the BBC God willing, has a change of heart. I think it can all be achieved. The other thing that really annoys me, but I don't think it will be, I think they've dug their heels in. I think they've done this deliberately. But the other thing that is so irksome about this is, I don't like to admit this, but it's true. With these kind of occasions, everybody goes to the BBC anyway. They would have got the vast majority of the audience anyway. Even ITV would have struggled next to the BBC. It's just something that Brits do. We go to the Beeb on these big events, these big occasions. So they didn't have to worry about their rivals anyway, but instead they decided to sort of crush a butterfly with a sledgehammer.
Quite, absolutely, crush a butterfly upon a wheel. I mean, it does seem to be utterly contrary to the Reithian ideal. And as I worked for them for over 30 years, I pretty much know what that is. And ultimately, it's about cooperation, it's about enlightenment, it's about helping people to understand things and to participate in them. It's about communication. It's not about shutting down the shutters and trying to and refusing to allow people to participate in something. So I would be astounded to discover who at the BBC is the architect of this decision.
Well, I'll tell you something. This Director General, Tim Davy's been there a couple of years now. He seems to sort of stumble from one crisis to the next. He's still got a chance to pull the cat out of the bag and to make this situation better, to offer us all the footage that we deserve. And if he doesn't do this, it will make the BBC... The BBC already looks really small, cheap and mean-spirited with this. And if Tim Davy doesn't do anything about this, that will be the impression we're all left with. And the BBC shouldn't be like this. People shouldn't be thinking, you mean-spirited misers, to be honest.
I mean, it's not just the BBC shouldn't be like this. The BBC has no need to be like this.
That's my point.
The BBC doesn't have to turn a profit. The BBC doesn't have to show its shareholders an uptick in sales. That's not it. That's my father's underwear business. That's not the BBC. Don't have to do that at the BBC. So the BBC has to be far more etiolated than that, far more altruistic than that. And as it's funded by the man and woman on the Clapham Omnibus, it has to include the man and woman on the Clapham Omnibus in any kind of decisions that it makes, including reaching out its arms and saying, come on, everybody wants to look at it. Look at this coronation. We're not going to exclude you because you don't happen to watch it on the BBC. I mean, if I was still there, I'd be horrified. I'm not still there and I'm horrified.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, they're going to get the massive audience anyway, and they're acting as if they're a commercial outfit. Now, if they were a commercial outfit and they had the chance to screw up their commercial rivals, we make all the money, we get all the advertising and you don't, ha, ha, ha. That is the way business goes. But they're not a commercial outfit.
Public
they don't make any money out of this. It's
public
outrageous.
service. It's meant to be a public service. And how does it serve the public if they exclude members of the public who would like to watch it on a different channel? I'm really astounded by this. I'm really horrified, and I feel a sense of shame on behalf of the BBC.
All right, Vanessa, you've left.
I have left, but you know, it's been massively in my DNA for so many years of my life. And actually, I admire so many things about it. I was very privileged to be there for all that time, and it was, you know, a wonderful place to work for many, many years. But this is not savoury, and it's not commensurate with a kind of higher-minded way of doing things and a more generous and kind way of doing things. And therefore, you don't want the BBC to be tarnished in this way. It's not appropriate, is it?
Look, the BBC, there's an end of days feeling about the BBC. It's on the downhill slide. As I say, Tim Davy is presiding over an ongoing disaster, stumbling from one crisis to the next, almost by the day, certainly by the week. And here we are in another massive mess. Why is the BBC always in a mess?
I don't know. It takes a phone call to change this, one phone call.
Yeah, come on, Tim Davy.
I think get on the phone and sort this out, because